USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
The United States Military Academy at West Point. The name evokes feelings of pride and achievement.
I had a friend of mine that went to the military academy at West Point, and I'd always had an interest as a kid in, reading the various campaigns, especially World War II. And so when this friend went to West Point, I got a chance to visit him there and decided that that's what I wanted to do. And with that, I applied through my senator, Senator Cohen, who later became Secretary of Defense, and received a nomination through him. Started in July of 1976 and graduated in May of 1980. It was an opportunity to serve, get a first-rate education, and give back to the country. While I was at West Point, I managed to go actually out to the Air Force Academy to participate in their SEER training, which is Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, which was pretty neat.
All right, I'm going to tell you to clear the platform.
The following year, I went to airborne school while still at West Point, so got to jump out of perfectly good airplanes and have fun with that. The basic course that I went to was the Infantry Officer Basic Course. That's down at Fort Benning, Georgia. And upon completion of that, I was fortunate enough to be selected to go to Ranger School.
Get set! Begin!
I went through Ranger School, got to do 5 more jumps, 3 out of a helicopter and another couple out of perfectly good aircraft. Actually, 3 phases for Ranger School. The initial phase is at Fort Benning, and so a lot of that is build you up or tear you down, and just a lot of the basic introduction to small leadership, small unit training. After that, we went up to Dahlonega, Georgia for the mountain phase, and I happened to go through the winter, so snow, cold. The one advantage to going through as a winter ranger is you get 2 sea rations a day instead of the one that the guys that went through during the summer.
SWAMP missions are part of the rigorous final phase of one of the world's premier leadership training programs, U.S. Army Ranger School.
And then the final phase, that's rivers and swamps and patrolling and basically going 24/7. It's just some very realistic, really grueling, but excellent leadership training. All the Rangers will stay in the Army. Some of them will actually be part of the Ranger battalions. I was already slated for a unit in Germany, so got this excellent training, which again would help me with my first platoon that I had over in Neu-Ulm, Germany. Prior to leaving for Germany, though, I lost probably about 25 pounds while in Ranger School. Took a little detour up to New York to marry my wife. So we were married, and then a week or less than that after that, I headed to Germany. She finished her last semester at college. I was a 2nd lieutenant, and I was a platoon leader. It was an infantry rifle platoon, and we were actually part of the 56th Field Artillery Brigade, which were the Pershing missiles, which were the nuclear missiles, medium range missiles that were deployed in Germany at the time. And so our responsibility was to provide security for them, both at fixed sites and whenever they deployed out into the field. So again, light infantry, a Jeep and 3 deuce-and-a-halves and a lot of walking. So we would go out on alert, and that was just part of the drills that we would do. Nothing to the point where we were, concerned that the balloon was about to go up, if you will. You knew that if anything were to happen, you were going to be right there where it was going to happen. Russia was still a big threat to us then. DEFCON levels would go up, up, up. We never really experienced, a high DEFCON level, but we were ready if we needed to be. One of the other jobs I had with that battalion, 2nd of the 4th Infantry, was as their S2, their intelligence officer. So, and again, prepping and making sure that the alert sites, the platoons out there were ready, and we'd go out and do the inspections for them. Keeping apprised of, whatever may be going on the other side of the Iron Curtain at the time. One war exercise I remember in particular that we went out on was under radio silence. And the reason this one is so memorable is as the S2 later on, I had the opportunity to sit in on a debrief of a soldier that had defected from Czechoslovakia. And he had mentioned that they were responsible for monitoring the radio traffic for our particular unit. And when they didn't pick us up on the radio, they got all kinds of scared because they didn't know what was going on. And so that one in particular kind of stands out. One of the neat things that we did get to do was go to Berlin. And this was while I was still a platoon leader, and do the combat in the cities training there for a couple of weeks in Berlin. And you take the troop train through East Germany, and on all of the overpasses, the East Germans or Russians would leave these train cars full of equipment that they had, just as kind of show of force. But very, very interesting. The guys in Berlin figured they had maybe about a 5-minute life expectancy if the balloon went up. They were the ones really living on the edge. We were stationed in Germany for 3 years, just about to the day. And from Germany, I had the opportunity as an infantry officer to go to the Armor Officer Advanced course, which was kind of neat, especially since as I'd been pretty much a ground pounder. And so getting to see these guys and the speed that they operate at was a real eye-opener. I got a real appreciation for armor, what it can do, and it came in very handy in my follow-on assignment, which was Fort Hood, Texas. I was with the 2nd of the 5th Cavalry there, which was a Bradley infantry unit, but it was actually a combined arms unit. We had 3 Bradley infantry companies, an M1 tank company, a tow company, and a headquarters company. So I was the maintenance officer initially for the entire battalion, so taking care of making sure the tanks, the Bradleys, the tow vehicles were all ready to fight. When I arrived at Fort Hood, I was a captain by that time, and so I was their maintenance officer, and then after serving as the maintenance officer for about 1.5 years, had the opportunity to command Bradley Infantry Company, Alpha Company, 1-5 Cav. Fond memories there. While serving with them, I got to deploy to the NTC, National Training Center, which is some of the most realistic training that you're going to get. Again, very grueling. They really put you through your paces there. And that NTC, a very desert environment and lots of wide open spaces, so you can really train well out there. The combat company command, the infantry platoon leader, those I found more enjoyable. Being on the tip of the spear, so to speak, that I found much more rewarding. And the camaraderie that you have with your fellow either platoon leaders or company commanders, it's an experience that you're not going to replicate anywhere else, no matter how hard you try. When you're going through, days and days with 3-4 hours of sleep, and you're dependent on each other, the guy on your left and your right, you really get to know each other. When we decided to get out in 1989, we moved back up to New York, where my wife was from, and we decided that we wanted to open our own business. So my mother-in-law had been down in Florida for a while. We kept visiting, said, Florida's nice. We're going to open a business. We can open it wherever we want. So we came down to Vero Beach, real happy with making that move. Great community, great people, and just a really nice community feel here. And with that, through the business, received the opportunity to work with an organization called Military Moms Prayer Group. And what they do is get care packages to the troops. And so we had some skills, you know, that we could use with our postal connections in their mailing side of things, where we were able to streamline. We get their list of folks that are deployed. People bring in the large flat rate boxes, and we'll ship them, you know, to those lists of folks that they provide us that are currently deployed. And we'll do it for like 50 cents a box less than what the post office is doing it at. Just a kind of way of giving it back, you know, because again, very fond memories and a lot to be thankful for from my time with the military. So they're a great bunch of ladies, and I know they're praying hard for the young men and women that are out there, you know, in harm's way today. So really happy to be just a small part of that.